I made psychology dope. Mental muscle. Yeah. Hey. Yo, what is up, guys? Mental Muscle Coach here. I've been wanting to break down the Joker from the movie Dark Knight, brilliantly played by the actor Heath Ledger, for years. The first reason is because I want to pay homage to Heath Ledger's brilliant acting as the Joker. But the second reason is because I believe the Joker is one of the most misunderstood characters in all of cinema. He's viewed as the psychopathic, evil arch nemesis of the Batman. But actually, I strongly disagree. When my film analysis professor in college asked me who my favorite hero was, I told him the Joker. Sound crazy? Well, throughout this video, I'm going to explain how the Joker is not only the anti-hero of Gotham, but he's also one of the most psychologically fascinating characters ever written. So here's a little overview about the main characters. The Joker is the perceived enemy of Gotham, the biggest threat to the city. He is the arch nemesis of the Batman, and he's perceived as a psychopath. Next, we have the Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, aka Swaggy B. He is the vigilante that runs around in a onesie, attacking all the criminals, stopping them from doing crimes, and seemingly being the ultimate antithesis to any type of crime that wants to show itself in the city. Next, we have Jim Gordon. He is the police lieutenant of Gotham City, and ultimately he plays a vital role in the plot that we'll discuss later on. Here we have the tragic character Harvey Dent. He was the district attorney of Gotham, seen as the golden boy, the pure moral ethic entity that wants to do right by the city. But ultimately he ends up becoming this crazed killer called Two-Face, who meets his maker by the Batman. And finally, we have Rachel Dawes, the romantic partner of Harvey Dent. She ends up dying in the movie. Her death influences his evolution into Two-Face, and I'm pretty sure that the Batman was feeling her at some point too. So yeah, another tragic story. So before I give a psychological analysis of the Joker, I'd like to give a little overview of the plot, because that's going to help us understand how we as the viewer are led to perceive the story and how we're led to think the story is unraveling versus what's actually going on beneath the surface as a result of what the Joker is implementing the whole time. That's going to help us get an understanding of the difference between how we saw him in the movie and how he actually is. So the movie begins with the Joker and his goons robbing a bank. He's stealing money from this bank that's run by the mob, and ultimately this seems like some typical criminal Joker shit to do. He's stealing the money, he's, wreaking havoc and chaos upon Gotham. Batman is trying to stop him from ultimately creating more chaos. He ends up killing Harvey Dent's partner. He ends up damaging and injuring Harvey Dent, and that's the reason why Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face. And so we're seeing all of these villain-like things that the Joker's doing, and Batman is just the good guy trying to stop it all. We see in a myriad of scenes throughout the movie that as a result of the Joker's antics, he's not only putting bad guys and the Batman in scenarios where they're in danger and scenarios that are quite chaotic, but he's also threatening the lives and the psychological stability of civilians. We see he's putting civilians in scenarios where he's taking over a ballroom and holding them hostage. We see where he's putting them in a situation where there's a bomb he's planted. And it's not only their psychology that's at risk, but he's also threatening their lives. And so how is someone who is implementing these kind of things be seen as anything less than a psychopathic villain, whereas it's quite evident, or at least it seems to be quite evident, that he couldn't give less of a shit. He's observing the suffering, and all he does is laugh at it, with this painted smile on his face and this total lack of empathy. These are the exact truths that we're going to bring into question within this psychological analysis. And so to begin the analysis, here's scene 1, where we get a peek into his upbringing.
So, dead? That's 500.
How about a lie? You wanna know how I got these scars? My father was one night, he goes off crazier than usual. Mommy gets the kitchen knife to defend herself. He doesn't like that. Not one bit. So, me watching, he takes the knife to her, laughing while he does it. He turns to me, and he says, "Why so serious?" He comes at me with the knife. "Why so serious?" He sticks the blade in my mouth. Let's put a smile on that face. And... why so serious?
Okay, so that scene did nothing for my argument. It's clear that that man is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He just stabbed that dude while telling him a story about his dad. He's tripping. So if we were to judge this psychopathic jive turkey just off of that scene alone, it goes without saying that we could close the case. We could say that he is a textbook psychopath, someone who not only displays the behaviors of one, seeing as he just killed that guy and treated it like it was a normal day at the park, you know, but the other element is he's also conveying the fact that he experienced within his early life trauma, deep trauma at the hands of his father that would serve as a predictor of later on psychopathic behaviors, or at least the potentiality for it. But that's only one scene. Let's look at scene 2.
Hi. You know, I don't want there to be any hard feelings between us, Harvey. When you and Rachel were being abducted, I was sitting in Gordon's cage. Now, I didn't rig those charges.
Your man, your plan.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan? You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. You know, I just do things. The mob has plans. The cops have plans. Gordon's got plans. You know, they're schemers. Schemers trying to control their little worlds. I'm not a schemer. I try to show the schemers how pathetic their attempts to control things really are. So, when I say, come here. When I say that you and your girlfriend was nothing personal, you know that I'm telling the truth. It's the schemers that put you where you are. You were a schemer, you had plans, and look where that got you. Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. Oh, and you know the thing about chaos? It's fear. You live. You die. Now we're talking.
Now, scene 2 is actually rich with insight about the psychology of the Joker. I mean, the scene starts off with us seeing this psychopathic-esque lack of empathy when he's talking to this man, Harvey Dent, and he's essentially saying to him, you know, hey man, it was nothing personal, you know, I'm just kind of like a dog chasing a car. I don't know what I'd do if I caught one, you know, and Harvey Dent is like, yo, to hell with you, bro. You're the reason that my shorty's dead and half my face is blown off. You know what I'm saying? Like, how is that your response? To hell with your metaphors, you know? But we're also getting a glimpse of the Joker's value system. We hear him call himself an agent of chaos, and we have this moment where he defines chaos as a fair entity or aspect of reality. So more on that later. Here's scene 3.
The good cop, bad cop routine.
Not exactly.
Never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy. He can't feel the neck.
Quick side note, you know that shit hurt, and if you ask me, that's pretty psychopathic that he just ate that punch.
See?
You wanted me. Here I am.
I wanted to see what you'd do. And you didn't disappoint. You let 5 people die. Then you let Dent take your place. Even to a guy like me, that's cold.
Where's Dent?
Those mob fools want you gone so they can get back to the way things were. But I know the truth. There's no going back. You've changed things. Forever.
And why do you want to kill me?
I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you? Go back to ripping off mob dealers? No. No, you complete me.
You're garbage who kills for money.
Don't
You're
talk
garbage
like one
that
of them.
kills
You're
for
not.
money.
Even if you'd like to be. To them, you're just a freak. Like me. They need you right now. When they don't, they'll cast you out. Like a leper. You see, their morals, their code. It's a bad joke. Dropped at the first sign of trouble. They're only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve.
Alright, now it's time for me to get in my bag. Taking the plot of the entire movie into account, while dissecting the insights provided in these 3 specific scenes, I'm now going to go to work on this psychological analysis of the Joker. So this psychological analysis will involve 3 arguments I'm going to make about his character. Then I'll conclude with me dissecting the core themes I unraveled from things he did and said in the movie. So here are my 3 arguments about the Joker. Number 1 is the Joker is not a villain. Number 2, he's not a crazed psychopath, but rather a traumatized dark anti-hero. And 3, he is a highly intelligent strategist, motivated to save Gotham from itself, using extreme, somewhat psychopathic, but highly effective means. So starting with argument number 1, the Joker is not a villain. So first off, allow me to convey the true role of the Joker in The Dark Knight by clarifying what Gotham City really is. It's the battleground within which this battle for good and evil is being fought. But we need to understand that Gotham itself is in many ways the embodiment of that evil. The twist is, both Batman and the Joker are individuals attempting to defeat that evil, but they go about it in 2 different ways. And the Joker is the one who's truly successful by the end of the movie. Gotham City is a corrupted city wrought with paid-off police officers, powerful crime syndicates, and systemic injustices embedded throughout the primary institutions of the city. Hell, the very existence of Batman has become a problem, as his presence has caused an uptick in dangerous vigilantes who claim to fight crime but are really just sloppy anarchists causing more ruckus. Now check this out. Every single one of the problems I just named are massively improved by the end of The Dark Knight, but they weren't made better because of Batman. They improved because of the Joker. Look, man, that man stole all of the mob's money just to set it on fire and said it wasn't about the money, it's about the message. That was his fresh ass line. Then, he's the reason that the rogue vigilante problem ended, and on top of that, he's the reason that they don't have all those paid off police officers anymore. That man's cold, he ain't no villain, that's over. Now listen fam, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I realized after I edited a whole bunch of this video, and I'm not gonna go and re-edit that arguments 2 and 3, as well as the concluding analysis of like the themes about the Joker's character, like all of those can be consolidated into one just gangster ass conversation. So I'm gonna just do that right now and have some fun with it. Let's do it. So how is the Joker not a psychopath? I mean, definitively, he displays a number of character traits and behaviors that are in alignment with psychopathy, or rather, I should say, antisocial personality disorder. That would be the more accurate term. But in order for us to assess whether or not he really is a psychopath, we have to operationalize what that term means, and we also have to understand what comes along with it. Like, for example, every psychopath is a narcissist, but not every narcissist is a psychopath. And so respectively, if we're going to call him a psychopath, then that means he also has to align with the attributes of narcissists. Narcissism is interestingly a disorder of self-esteem. So despite the fact that narcissists will commonly display behaviors where they appear powerful, they appear in control, they appear profoundly emotionally regulated a lot of times, or at least they look that way to other people. While that may be the case, in fact, they have this overwhelming fragility within them because of the fact that they have such a fragile self-esteem and sense of self. They display these attributes of grandiosity, of conceitedness. They have this propensity for manipulativeness. But despite these control-oriented and self-oriented traits, they have this fear, they have this weakness within them. And this weakness, this fragility of their ego and self-perception ultimately is a foundational attribute that underlies their behaviors and their coping and defense mechanisms. Now, why is it that I'm bringing up narcissism when I'm asking the question whether or not the Joker is a psychopath? Because again, if we want to align him with the categorization of a psychopath, then we should also see alignment with the traits of a narcissist. So let's take a look here. Without a question, we see a number of the narcissistic traits that the Joker definitely demonstrates. We see a very high level of grandiosity in his behaviors and the plans that he employs in the movie. We see a high level of manipulativeness. We see a level of conceitedness. When he speaks about himself, the simple things that he employs, you have to be an arrogant son of a bee to simply even decide that you're going to impact the lives of other people to such a degree. But here's the thing. Remember that narcissism is a disorder of self-esteem. So someone who is narcissistic will be highly prone to exhibit self-protecting behaviors. They will employ behaviors to protect their public perception, to protect their sense of self. They're not only trying to protect themselves from being perceived negatively from the outside, but they're also trying to protect themselves from seeing themselves negatively. There's this dualistic defense going on, which is why the emotions and the behaviors of narcissists can be so childish and erratic, because that's a lot to protect. But when we look at the Joker, so many times he displays the antithesis of self-protective behavior. Other than when he was being comedic or satirical, the Joker never conveyed behaviors within the movie where he was trying to protect his sense of self, where he was trying to protect his identity or the way that society perceived him. He was perfectly okay to be the villain, to be the person to do the things that get him looked at as an effing animal, as a monster, as a psychopath. But in actuality, he actually was the hero of the movie, as we discussed earlier. So why did he never try to glean any of this positivity? Why did he never want anyone to see him in a positive way, even though he is the one that brought about positive changes in Gotham? Now, mind you, he wasn't going to get any claps because, quite frankly, he used a lot of, psychologically screwed up shit, some messed up strategies in order to get his plans across, but ultimately he succeeded. Here's the thing. He didn't care because the Joker is an idealist. The Joker identifies as a change agent. His focus is his motivation. It's not how he's perceived. I mentioned that he is a dark anti-hero. He went through suffering when he was a child at the hands of his father. He went through suffering in his upbringing. That suffering traumatized him. But my hypothesis is that trauma birthed within him an immense mental acuity, an insight about the inner machinations, the mental processes of other human beings, because the extent to which he's able to manipulate other people in the movie, when you think about all of the different elements and scenes that he orchestrated from behind the scenes, he's a master manipulator. And in order to do that, he has to have a deep awareness of the human condition, a deep awareness of the psychology of other beings. And I also believe that that is a big part of the motivation as to why he wants to become the anti-hero. He wants to orchestrate change and be the change agent, regardless of how others view him, because he understands suffering. He understands what it is to be in a very dark place and not have a quote-unquote savior, not have a person to rescue you, because no one rescued him from his father. No one rescued him from his trauma. And ultimately, he developed this version of himself. He developed the Joker, and I perceive that he developed it in order to make the change in the world that he wasn't able to make in his own life. He can't go back and change the experiences he had with his father and his upbringing and his mother, but he can make change in the world, and quite frankly, the perspective from which, the lens from which he strives to change the world is a dark lens. It's a twisted lens. It's a lens of a level of cruelty. I mean, now mind you, I want to state that the Joker definitively has narcissistic and psychopathic behaviors, but I'm simply saying that he's lacking in some of them, and that plays a role in his ability to be an anti-hero. Like, for example, a major one is that he lacks impulsivity. Psychopaths have an immense level of impulsivity because of the fact that they are lacking in the area of emotional expression. They don't feel emotions or fear or anxiety in the same way that normal people do. So as a result, there is less of an inclination to not give in to their impulses because they're not nearly as worried about repercussions, if at all. But the Joker is completely calculated. His seemingly impulsive behaviors and outbursts are by design. They're not a true representation of the Joker's psyche, but rather he's pretending to be sporadic and impulsive. Like when he says to Harvey Dent, "I'm just a dog chasing cars. I don't know what I'd do if I caught one." He's pretending, because the basic thing here is that Heath Ledger is playing a character, the Joker, who is playing a psychopath. An actor is pretending to be the Joker, and the Joker is pretending to be a psychopath, because he's employing that to throw people off his trace. He's employing that so that people that are in the movie don't know his strategy, don't understand his plan, don't understand his thinking and his cognition, because he is a change agent. He strives to make change. He sees himself as a confident, capable intellect, which he really is. He sees himself as someone who was traumatized by his pain, and so as a result has emerged psychologically as a cognitively superior being. He feels like he sees the world in a way that transcends beyond the way that others can see it. And while that is twisted, there is a degree to which that's true. Because again, he was the only character within The Dark Knight that was able to achieve his objective. He was able to address the root causes of the evil within Gotham. And so even though he didn't eliminate all of the evil, the change, the impact that he left on Gotham by the end of the movie was immense, and it was beyond that of any other character, including Batman. So it is these complex psychological attributes that ultimately make up the multi-dimensionality that is the character, the Joker. And Heath Ledger, through his phenomenal acting, was able to give us this beautiful rendition of an incredibly multi-dimensional character and a crazy mofo, the Joker. Yeah. Hey. I'm spitting this medicine right out my mandible. Sip it, it's good for you, better than Theraflu. Even though I enlighten populations, don't dare get it twisted. I'm sick like a